What up? What up? What up? What up, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to today's live MEC session. I'm just going to wait a minute or two. We're actually still waiting for our guest as well, but I'm going to wait for some people to jump in here. Maybe I'll take some questions in the chat, see who's up in here. But welcome. Hopefully, everybody had a cool weekend. Oh, here goes Jay Zach right here. Let me add him to the stream. 1 second. Jay Zach, what's up?
What's going on, Dame? How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
So
Can't complain.
we're already live. We're already live. We're just waiting for a few more people to jump in here.
Cool.
1 second. All right, cool. Let me bring the comments up. Cool. All right, just send out the text. Sometimes I forget to do that. All right, cool. So we're here. Michael, what up, man? See you in the chat. Appreciate you. So we're live on all of BeatStars platforms: YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, and then the Facebook, the MEC Facebook as well. So I love having these discussions with independent artists that are at your stage, because obviously you've come a long way. But I know you're not where you want to be eventually, right? Like you still want to be in, have more success. But I think sometimes these conversations are even more fruitful than talking to like somebody that's super on, because you're in the middle of it, right? You're in the middle
Right.
of trying to figure things out. But before we jump into all that, can we give people just a background of who you are in case people aren't familiar with the bars yet?
Yeah. So my name's Jay Zach, hip hop artist. I've been at this for like 8 years now. Basically fully independent, and have been for my whole career pretty much. Besides like a small stint of like a 5-song deal that I did with like an indie label, but built the team. Have a producer, manager, and we basically built up everything from scratch over the years, and built a fan base through. It's a lot of hard work and trial and error, and yeah. So
Dope. Yeah. So for the people watching that haven't checked out Jay Zach's music, definitely check him out when you get a chance. Super talented. Yeah, I've been following him for, I always get the years wrong because time flies, but it's probably more it's probably more years than I think, but I think it's been like 3 years since I've been following you, but it might be 4 or 5, no idea. So let's jump right into to the tough questions. Like, I guess as an independent artist, well, this isn't that tough. This is easy. Like, what do you love about your situation and how you're moving right now as an independent artist? What do you love about it?
I think what I love is just like the ability to be able to do whatever I want, like with this, like drop, like if I wanted to just drop music tomorrow, I could just, I mean, I record and we mix everything in house. So like we can just record some stuff today, drop it tomorrow, and kind of just move more freely.
Is there anything about like, are you interested in the business side, or is that more just like, yo, I know I need to know some of this stuff? So, or is anything on the business side drive you or interest you?
Yeah, definitely that too. I've been just learning more about that probably the last few years, as my career got more serious. But yeah, I've been a nerd about that stuff more so now than before. I'm like super interested in just like how it works, and like even the technology behind it, and how trends change over the years and stuff. Because I mean, I'm sure like this stuff changes so rapidly. Like what worked 3-4 years ago to even 2 years ago, a year ago, is not working now, or is working still. But like you always gotta
Right.
adapt and just kind of move with the times and stuff. So
Right. Can you think of an example of something? I mean, there's new social media platforms, things like that.
right.
But what's kind of been a big thing for you that maybe was something that you were doing 3 or 4 years ago that you don't do as much now, or just something that you knew that you've been doing in the past year, something like that?
I think obviously it's kind of the main one, but like just the platforms. TikTok is the hot one right now, where you can you can, if you know, get on it early and learn how it works and stuff, you can definitely grow a fan base. But even a few years ago, I caught a lot of initial steam on Twitter when when they first introduced like Twitter video, and it was only 30 seconds. But I knew like a lot of my friends didn't even have the update on Twitter yet where they could see video. And I was like on it super early, and I started seeing like these popular Twitter accounts that posted like freestyle type stuff. So I like hopped on the wave and started like sending them my stuff, and got lucky and got like a couple pretty big pages to post it. And then it kind of went like somewhat viral on Twitter. But that was just like because I was on it early and like it was new. So I think a lot more people were interactive with like the freestyle stuff on that platform at the time. But that I think I gained like 10, 15,000 followers just off of that strictly on Twitter.
Dope. Yeah, no, I probably sound like a broken record at this point because that's one of the things I'm always trying to communicate to folks. It's definitely important to be a first mover, not just when a new platform that you think is going to be relevant pops up, but also with new features on the platform. Like you just said, 30-second video on Twitter. Well, I know now Twitter video is longer than that. It's like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
But, because as these platforms are experimenting with new features, obviously they want to give the feature some love so they can see if it's a feature they want to keep, if it's a feature they want to change, or if a feature they want to just do away with. So I think that's super important. If you can attribute like your momentum to, I know it's probably a million things. It's attributed to a million things. But if you were to just say, hey, these are the top few things that I think have gotten my followers up across the board on social media, it's gotten my streams up, what would you say those top 3? And if you can't just do 3, we can expand to 5.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the list goes on, but if I were to think of 3, it's probably, I mean, number 1 is just like consistency of putting things out. I mean, just literally like 8 years of just straight putting out new songs and new type of content. 2, I think that content being video content, at least for me. I mean, I know there's some people that like, get really lucky with the image that's like secretive kind of, but I feel like a majority of artists, like people just want to see who you are, and like all the stuff that went viral was just a video of me rapping. It didn't even have to be like the highest quality music video budget. It was just filmed on an iPhone in a car, and like one of them Snoop Dogg picked up and just posted on his Instagram. I filmed it in like 20 minutes. So I think video, and then I think just a wide range of content too, because I had the freestyles and stuff, but I also had like real songs that I was putting on Spotify and like streaming platforms and stuff. So when new fans came to me and were like, who is this guy? It wasn't just a dude who posted 3 freestyles and that's all he had. I had like 3 albums already out. So everyone reached out to me. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And now you should check out the actual music I have out, and built fans of the music and the brand more so than just like 1 30-second clip.
Right. So I think that this speaks to my next question, but it's like, because, a lot of cats or a lot of people on social media, they might be successful in getting their followers up, but it doesn't necessarily translate to streams on Spotify and like fans of the music, because even some people that just do freestyles, the freestyle, it doesn't really translate to listens or streams of the actual music. How do you feel like you've been successful in getting not only social media followers up, but to get them to actually check out the music as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously one is the consistency of just continuing to put stuff out and show people that your music's good. 2, interacting with people is huge. I was always big in like answering every single DM that when people reached out to me. So I established these connections with fans who now, some of them will still reach out to me and they'll be like, man, I remember in 2016 when you dropped this song and like you messaged me back, or you sent me, I used to like send people stickers just for free when I had a lot less fans, but people would be like, dude, I still have your sticker on my car from 2016. Dope. And it's just like these relationships that I've built with people goes, a long way for them. To me, I interact with so many people. Like kind of forget, and then I'll be like, oh shit, I remember this dude. Like,
Yeah.
he's a lifelong fan now. So
Yeah, some of those early things that you do with like your early supporters are always going to stick with you. I remember when we were doing, I mean, we did a lot of stuff like that in the early days of the label I used to run. So I remember we did like custom basketball jerseys that sold really well, where like people could order like and put their name on. Obviously, it took a minute for them to actually get it, but people pre-ordered jerseys and we put their names on the back. That was some of the early merch items that we did. I remember some of our fans, we allowed them to make money through our music. So we would send wholesale, like people that wanted to sell Hop CD. We would send maybe sell like 20 CDs at a time for like $2 each. Right. And then we allowed them to just flip those for as much as they could, $5, $10. And people make some good money that way. But long story short, it's some of those more unique, creative things that you can do when you have maybe 1,000 fans versus now you have more than that. It's not really possible to send out stickers to everybody. But that's dope. But we still should be thinking along those lines as the fan base grows to create those unique experiences. So we talked about the things that you liked as an independent artist. What are the things that are very frustrating as an independent artist that you deal with on a day-to-day basis?
I'd say frustrating is probably, not having, everything that I want to do. I have to, figure it out on my own, or I don't have, I have some connections and networks I've built, but obviously, I can't just like, everything's out of pocket. So if I have an idea for a music video, I got to fund it myself, or even like just the down to the nitty gritty of like planning all the shit. It's like me on the forefront of just like figuring out, answering most emails, on top of like hitting up the fans, on top of like trying to do the business stuff of it, and like and the financial end and stuff. So I think just like taking on a lot of work, which is exciting and I like doing, but at times it could be overwhelming, and not having those just like, I guess, power connections if I were on a label that I would have.
Right. So knowing that, as an independent artist, you guys are tasked with so much, and you just spoke to quite a few of those things. So how do you manage your day? Like, how do you organize your day or your week or your month to ensure that, you're recording and you're doing the stuff that you love, but you also are doing the things that just have to be done? What does your day look like?
It always varies, but I think just one big thing for me is just writing everything down, even like the small stuff. Cause if not, I'll just space it, cause so much stuff comes up on a daily basis where like, if I know I gotta like even DM a random person back, someone that like sent me clothing or something, I'll just like make a big checklist on a board I have and like go through it every day and make sure I did what I had to do. And if not, then like just transfer it over to the next day. I know some people are more like, they might have it on their phone or whatever, but just for me, like a physical board I could write on is like the easiest for me, because I can just kind of move on the fly.
Right. Nah, it's interesting. I think, and not that this is some scientific study with a lot of data points, but like with some of the artists that I've worked with, they prefer to write things down as well. Whereas I keep everything in my Google Calendar. Yeah, everything's kind of color coded, and I just move things around, and that works for me. I think for the people watching, I think you need to find what gets the job done for you. Because at the end of the day, you have things that need to get done, relationships that need to be built and nurtured, music that needs to get done. So whatever works for you. But I think just the idea of visually seeing, what your day could look like and how you structure that, is super important to actually getting things accomplished. And you talked a little bit about it, but I always like to give people insight into, what an independent artist team looks like. So who would you consider like actually on the JZack team? Which roles are filled right now?
So producer, engineer, who I've been working with, Rocky, he lives with me. So everything we do is literally just out of the house. But yeah, we've been working together for like over 5 years now, and kind of built a lot of this up together. And then I have a manager, John, who's been helping out for like 2.5, 3 years now. And we had met after I already had a little bit of momentum, but he just reached out and we kind of built a relationship over the years. And now we live together as well. So those are like the two big roles. Everybody else, is, I have like some people that help with videos and stuff, but like those are the two solidified roles.
Got you. So you work primarily with your producer in-house. Do you ever look for beats outside of the house, or you keep everything, you keep developing the sound with your guy in-house?
It's a bit of both. I like working with other producers too for beats and stuff. But he'll engineer everything and then, kind of executively produce. Even if it's not his beat, he'll add his sauce on it and whatnot. So he's always involved.
Dope. And how do you manage that communication with him? Because I actually had an artist management session last week that was really dope. And we talked a lot about managing expectations and how that's a lot of times when people butt heads is when expectations are unknown, or there's no communication. So I would imagine your producer's cool with you using other people's beats. And how do you just manage that communication so that nobody ever feels weird about it? How do you establish an understanding?
Yeah, I think it's just really talking about it and communicating, being over communicating if that's a thing, and understanding like being open with with each other, and like everyone has their own, everyone wants to see each other win, but they have their own goals and stuff too. So if he's working with other artists or whatever and producing, I'm not like feeling away, and vice versa, as if I'm working with other producers and whatnot. It's kind of like a mutual understanding.
Right. And when you do get beats from other people, do people send them to you? Are you looking on BeatStars? There's a lot of producers that watch this show. They're probably like, is there an opportunity to send some beats?
Right.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, people have sent me beats just through email. I've done it all. I've gone on YouTube and just looked up beats. I've gone on BeatStars. So for me, it's like if it's a dope beat and it finds me, or if I find it, like I'm gonna create over it. Dope. I'm not like I need this one person or like this super producer or whatever. I'm just like, I just like making music and whatnot. So I'm definitely always open to working with anyone.
Right. Another thing that I've touched on and tried to get people to understand is like, independent artists can be set up very differently in terms of like what their revenue streams look like. Now, I would never ask anybody to disclose, how much they make on this podcast, but would you feel comfortable like just saying a percentage breakdown? Like, because some artists are like, 90% of my revenue is merch. That's what I focus on. Everything else that I do is to push people to buying merch. What percentage breakdown would you say your revenue is when it comes to merch versus streams versus whatever else comes in?
For sure. No, it's definitely a majority streams. I'd probably say like 80%. But one thing I've learned and definitely need to improve on is like, which I think I'm starting to do this year more so, is like just diversifying that that income. Because like I think I'm sure a lot of artists have the same problem, but I always feel like I don't like promoting too much, and like I always feel like I'm like stuffing it down people's throat, which isn't the case, but that's just for whatever reason the way I think. But like I notice every time I do drop merch and push it, like it sells pretty well for my audience, and I'm like every time I do it, I'm like, damn, I don't know why I don't do that more. So I think just like, yeah, the merch thing is big, so I'm kind of working on that. But there's definitely a few other ways of income to stay on top of.
Yeah. So I mean, and I knew you were gonna. I thought you were gonna say streams, and it just counters the narrative that's out there that artists don't make money with streams. And I try to get the general public to understand is like artists are in different situations. A lot of the artists that are complaining about streaming revenue are locked in a deal, and that's why they're not getting the streaming revenue. There's the streaming revenue is pretty healthy. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be increased, because I'm always in favor of getting artists and creators more money. But if you own your music or in a deal that's favorable, the streams add up, and you can make a decent living. But your point about diversifying revenue streams, super important. And what you just said, I find this to be the case with most artists, is like, they're promoting themselves. They feel like they're doing too much when really they're not doing enough. Like, the feeling is like, hey, I don't want to push this on to people. I don't want to be extra, but there's room to be more promotional,
Right.
as opposed to less. And I think one of the strategies that we've employed with the comedian that I work with is like, we have a merch drop every month, like the top of every month, like something, not a whole collection. It'll just be like a design or two or a new product or something like that. And it just keeps it kind of keeps us in a routine of like making sure we always drop something new, and we're always pushing the merch in some way, shape, or form. So I think having that consistency, even from a merch drop perspective, I know you talked about it from releasing music.
Mm-hmm.
I think it keeps it fun too. We're doing giveaways and stuff like that. So, maybe something that you want to do with your merch going forward. Is there anything new that you've done this year that you haven't done before? What are some of the new things you've tried this year or recently that maybe you haven't done before? And because I feel like independent artists, we always gotta refresh our strategy, add things to it. What are some things that you've tried this year that that's new?
Well, I tried it a little bit last year. I know, I'm sure you're gonna be hype on this one, but then I kind of fell off. But recently, I've been back on the text marketing, and doing the whole phone number thing. And I think the first time I did it, I was like half on board, so I got like cool results, but I wasn't fully invested, and then it kind of just fell off. But I announced it again like a month ago or so, and it's just been doing really well. And the more like I'm using it and actually interacting with the fans that sign up, the more I'm realizing like how valuable it is with like, even when you send a text, how many people open it, or when you reply to people, how hyped they are, that you hit them back on text. That's like for value in their head, it's like 10 times more than a DM.
Right.
And then, whenever I do have new, and I'm super open about it. Like, this isn't my main number, but like I'm really texting on this, and it's going to be more for like exclusive stuff. Like I'll send you guys stuff early if you want, so they kind of know what they're getting into. And it's all like the super fans or whatever that really sign up anyway. So I sent like an unreleased song that it was like a secret SoundCloud link, and everyone that I sent it to was hyped. Like you could tell it's a good way to get the real the like super fan
Right.
group together. So that's been big. And then also it's kind of in the same realm, but I did like a alternate Instagram account where it's like a private page, and I'll have people request me and only accept like so many, and then just post like, funnier content or more like laid back stuff. And it's kind of the same thing. It gives people that exclusive feel.
Mm-hmm.
So between those two, recently we've been just like trying a lot of stuff and whatnot. And I think it's been really successful in like getting to those hardcore fans.
Dope. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that people on here know that I'm about is the text marketing. I've been screaming at artists about that for a long time. And I think the general idea is kind of similar to you starting the separate Instagram pages. We're trying to extract like your super fans out of just like your followers and provide them with a different experience, because those are the ones that are going to appreciate the full VIP experience, or the super pack the super merch pack that you put together,
Right.
And having their information, having a direct line to those people that really, really rock with you. I think it's going to make you more money, but it's also going to be a better experience for them, as fans of your music. So definitely, I think I saw you post about your number recently, so I'm glad you jumped on that. What's the other page? What's the other Instagram community that you started? What's that called?
Like the name of the Instagram?
Yeah.
It's called Maintain Course, which is like kind of a motto I've been just like I've had for a little bit, but kind of just been branding more so.
Dope. And so what's that? What's that? I mean, I guess it's kind of self-explanatory, but what's the story and the messaging behind that?
Yeah, so it was a name of a song off my last album, um, which was called Off the Boat, but just obviously Maintain Course, kind of just like the message of keep going. But I guess it ties into my story more so. Like um, my dad, both my parents. Well, my dad came from Poland in like the late '80s to America on a boat and like worked. And when he got here, kind of just like started from scratch and then worked on a boat his whole life, um, being a fisherman. So like ties into the sea narrative of like off the boat, and that's kind of how I'm here. Because I'm the only person in my family that's born in the U.S. So that was like the whole concept and stuff of the last album, and that
Oh,
was like the intro of it. So Maintain Course kind of just became the motto of that album, and I was like, I should just stick with this because I think it's pretty cool, and a lot of people really mess with the message too.
dope. No, I think that's a dope way to continue telling your story. Um, and I think, and obviously I know a lot of artists struggle with having one Instagram account that they gotta, maintain and make sure you're keeping active. Um, but especially with how the algorithms work, like I think it's important to have like different platforms. Because we just don't know like how far our reach is. So, if you have a merch line or some type of important messaging like maintain course, is that also on some of your merch items, I'm assuming?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so it's more, so it's merch as well. I would encourage people to start different IG profiles. Now the MEC has an Instagram. Sometimes I struggle because a lot of the advice, like I don't have the time to do for the MEC as well, because the MEC is still a passion project for me. It's not how I make money, so I can't necessarily show. I mean, obviously we do the texting, so that's a good example. But we have a separate Instagram page for the MEC podcast, that I always like forget, or not even forget to put. I just don't have time to like upkeep it. So do you find that having another Instagram page, like, it, it- how much more? I mean, it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but is it for you? Do you like, how often are you posting to that page, or how do you fit that into your routine and schedule so that you don't forget to post to maintain course?
that that one's pretty easy for me to keep up with, I think, because it's more so like I enjoy just throwing like funnier content or stuff that I don't have to worry as much about.
Mm,
So it's kind of just like me having fun with it. So I enjoy doing that because sometimes with my like regular Instagram, I like overthink like with all the algorithms and stuff. I'm like, hey, is this post going to do well? Or should I like, how should I post this? Or which video should I post to try to get the most engagement? Where this one, I'm kind of just like, fuck it. These are like, people are going to enjoy it. But it definitely does get a little tough with like the random apps that I have followings on that aren't crazy, but I still should post, like Snapchat. There's a lot of people that I still have that view my story. Um, but every time I post something, I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot to post it on my Snapchat, which isn't the biggest deal, but it's still
right.
a good amount of people. Or I have like a pretty big following on this app called RapChat, which is kind of like Snapchat, but it's like 100,000 followers on there. And my manager's always like, "Did you post that video on RapChat?" And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like always kind of spacing it. But just a lot of those, like there's just so much shit out there
Right.
to
So
stay on top of.
when it comes to social media, do you have a calendar for yourself, or do you just kind of wake up and, or just one day, just every now and then, just like, okay, I haven't posted here in a minute, like what do I have to post? Like how do you approach social media and all the different platforms that you're controlling?
Yeah, I have it more planned out in my head, but the social media stuff's a little more wing than like the rest of the schedule. Yeah, I said it's a little more loose, but I've always been good, I think, with just kind of like staying consistent on them. So it's never been too much of an issue for me.
Dope. And then how about the music? Like how do you what's the plan for music drops over the next year? Like how often do you drop? You know, what does that release schedule look like?
That one's always I'm always figuring out and tweaking too. I try to I try to drop a song once at least once every month or 2 months max. Last like 2 years, I really just focused on singles, so I was kind of just popping up with singles every month or two. But now it's been a couple of years since my last album, so kind of focused on that, and then fans kind of started letting me know that they're ready for an album,
Mm.
and they're kind of a little tired of the singles. So now I'm
Creatively, like how fast are you able to work? Like if you wanted to put a song out a week, do you feel like you could maintain like your level of quality, or would you get burnt out? Like how does your creativity work?
I think I could. It's always like a battle in my head. I think I could, but then sometimes I'm like, damn, I don't know if they would be all the best quality songs. So I think it's
Mm.
just finding the medium of that for me with like still because I do like to release music at a somewhat rapid pace. I'm not one of those artists who like you get the one album a year thing. But I definitely don't want to. I've gotten in the habit where I put out stuff for like multiple weeks straight, and then I'm like, damn, am I just doing this to do it, you know? And then like I'm not even uh, satisfied with the quality at the end. So I think it's just finding that medium of like consistency, but not overdoing it and burning myself out, and then just putting out shit that I'm not that happy with.
Right, right, right. All right. Well, I want to open it up for questions. I saw a few questions like 15 minutes ago. For people that maybe are attending this for the first time, I typically take questions at the end. I will scroll up and try to grab it because I think it was a pretty good question. I can't remember what it was, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, we should ask that at the end. But whether you are on Facebook or YouTube or Periscope or Twitch, all you need to do is put your question in the comment section. I'll be able to see it. And unless it's something crazy, we'll have Jay-Zach answer it. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I'm gonna scroll up and see if I can find that one. Because I kind of wanted to. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. Um, oh, here we go. He said, when putting out content, do you make things in advance and stockpile and release slowly, or do things at the same time you release them?
It's usually at the same time, but I'll have it stockpiled mentally or have a strategy somewhat, I guess. If I'll be like, Tuesday I'm gonna drop a new music video, so Tuesday will be the post for the actual video. Then Wednesday I'll follow up with like a picture being like, what do you guys think of the song? Thursday, post like if someone reacted to it on YouTube or something. So I kind of like mentally plot it out, but I don't have it like stockpiled and know exactly what I'm doing.
Got you. But just in terms of like the music, do you
Oh, okay.
like do you make a bunch of music and then release like one song and then the next song in a month, like, or do you typically make it? How far after you make it do you put it out?
Got you. That always varies. Sometimes I'll make a new song and just be like, this is the one that's going out next, and I'll drop it, in the next few weeks. But I usually have a few songs kind of stockpiled up. Sometimes I'll drop some shit that's like 2 years old too. I'll just like go through stuff and hear something I like that I didn't like at the time, or maybe get somebody else's opinion. They're like, you got to put this out. So I'll just put out some older stuff. So I'm a little all over the place with it, but
Dope. So that actually brings up another question that I have for you. Because I don't work day to day with any music artists anymore. I work with comedians, and one of the things that's been successful for the guys I've been working with is like repurposing like older content. Obviously, there are people that have become fans of you just in the past year, but you've been releasing music for 8 years. Is there a way that you kind of reintroduce older music to newer fans? Like, is that something that you think about or ever do?
yeah, that I think that's a big thing. especially with stuff that you know works well or already got a good reaction in the past, because there's just so much shit on the internet getting put out constantly where like it either slips through the cracks, or just because you've seen it 100 times, there's, you know, like you post something a couple months later, and even if a fan has seen it, I'm sure they wouldn't mind seeing it again. I would do that with like the videos and freestyles or whatever that like kind of went viral. I would just like post them again. Like I haven't done as much this year, but the last couple of years I would do that, and I would be like, damn, this still goes hard, or just post like a different caption and see how people react.
Well, I know some people post things on the anniversary of, you
Mhm.
know, it's like the anniversary of your first, second, or a big project that did really well.
Yeah.
That's a good way to repurpose it. But I know it feels weird. I mean, it's probably the same concept of me like saying some of the things that I know I need to say on this platform over and over again. One is because I feel like you need to hear it 20 times before you actually get through to some people's skulls. But two, it's like I may have said it 20 times, but somebody might have just become a fan of the MEC and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. So
Right.
it's for that reason as well. Let's see, we got some other good questions. Let's see. With the way media is consumed nowadays, are you surprised that fans are antsy for a full album? Singles seem to be more popular nowadays. Do you how is the communication with your fans in terms of an album versus a single and what you think they want?
I think singles just do better, at least for me, when I'm dropping them one at a time. But I think the album is important for like the real hardcore fans. They consume it a lot better. So, I mean, I've dropped singles for like 2 years straight. So I think it's important to throw an album in there, especially when you have that base of people that's what they want, you know. And you could push it a lot more and film videos to multiple songs, so each one can get their push still.
Yeah, I think the albums are still important because and this is kind of what you said, like it's telling your story in a more full way. And it's a reason to kind of like, you know, reach out to try to get media support. Like it's kind of like the full course meal that you can rally around and just put some extra attention if your fans are ready for it. If you've, you know, built up demand, you know, of course you don't want to put out an album nobody gives a shit about your
Right.
music or doesn't know you. You know, but I definitely think you want these full course meals to release. You know, some people release them once a year, some people a few times a year, some every other year. I think you really just have to, you know, gauge the demand and your artistic hunger. Like sometimes people just want to tell the story. This story needs to be out there because I'll probably never feel this way again. I'll probably never go through these things again. And I want to tell this story the way it happened, and I need to put it out now.
Right.
So, all right, let's see. Tandy says, how much importance do you place on individual performance skill training? What does your weekly individual training practice schedule look like, especially during COVID situation? Like, how do you just continue to make music to sharpen your skills, or are you doing other things? Are these freestyles a part of like, you know, keeping the bars fresh? Like, how do you approach like keeping good at rapping?
Yeah, I think it's just continuing to make music and staying consistent with it. Also for me, another big one is just like surrounding myself around other people who make music that I am fond of. Which I'm in a situation where I live in like a close area with a lot of my good friends who also do music. So just like, even if I'm not making it, like kind of just study them or pick their brains on stuff, or, you know, kind of critique each other, and whatnot. So I think that's big for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm obviously a huge fan of collaboration. Still going to do the 1 week notice project at some point. I promise you.
Yeah.
But you know, knowing the value of collaboration, unless I've missed it, like I don't see you actually putting out music with too many other people. Is that something that you want to do more of? Is it something that you shied away from? Um, how do you approach collaborations with other artists?
Yes, definitely. I want to do more of it for sure. And I have this year more than, or like the last 2 years more than I used to. I think it's because before I just never really like knew anyone personally or too many people. Um, and I was never huge on like not knowing an artist at all and just like emailing them and being like, yo, I got an open verse. Like, do you want to hop on this? For me, there always has to be like some sort of connection. I think that it doesn't even have to be like all in studio collab from scratch type of thing. But I know some people who just like are on the opposite end of the spectrum and just want to like feature with everyone, which is cool. But I don't know. I've just never been the type of person that like reaches out to a bunch of people. I think it kind of has to be um, organic a little bit. But I do enjoy collabing with people, and I want to do more of it. So probably part of it is me coming out of the shell as well.
Though, yeah, I mean, I encourage everybody, watching to collaborate, share fan bases. There was a company called Audrey, I think it like literally just emailed me this morning, like in the podcasting space. It was where you can sign up to collaborate with other podcasters. You kind of profile your podcast, and I guess people go through them in terms of like size of listenership and kind of how you are looking to collaborate. I think there should be something like that similar for artists. Like it would be dope if there was a website where, you can kind of filter through artists that were open to collaborating, that have a certain amount of followers, get a certain amount of streams, so that artists can connect. If you're feeling somebody's music, and they're in your lane, it could benefit a lot from collaborating. I actually reached out to the founder of this company to throw that out there as a potential idea, as an addition to what he's doing in the podcasting space, because I think it would be really dope, and I think that a lot of artists could benefit from it. All right, we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Some of these are just comments. At this time, if you guys can just limit like the random comments so that there's just questions and I'll have to go through. Let's see. Shorter, I don't think that's a question, that's a comment. Shorter songs and less songs on an album, the better the way. This isn't the 90s. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, this isn't necessarily posed as a question, but how do you approach like the number of songs like on your album, or is it an EP? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the sweet spot for you in terms of number of songs on an album?
I like 10 to like 13 songs personally. I think that's kind of what I'm shooting for. I feel like that's a good number where people are getting, the fans are still getting a good chunk of work, but it's not like 22 songs.
Yeah.
I know some people do that, which is fine, but it's even like as a fan, when I see like an artist that I like or want to check out a new body of work and I see 21 songs, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right. It's like, why not just break, unless those 21 songs like have to go together, which I don't think I've ever seen. It's like, why not just break that up and have like much more material to stay fresh throughout the year or 2 years, as opposed to just dropping it on everybody, Chris Brown style. I know that Chris Brown's projects have had like hella songs, but he's Chris Brown. So,
Right.
people might, are probably more inclined to listen to all those. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. I wonder if you have any advice for other independent artists, that want to get to a point where they're making a living, from their music. What are a couple of things that you would share, that can help them start to, build some momentum?
I would say, I mean, it's probably the stuff they hear over and over again, but like just being consistent with your work, knowing it take, everyone's come up is different, but like, shit could take years to build fans and momentum and whatnot. Keep sharpening the sword and make sure the music's actually up to par, and people want to listen to it. That's a big thing. I would say, and just stay creative with like how you promote it and brand yourself, because there's so much on the internet now, and you're not just competing with rappers, you're just competing with people's attention in general.
Right.
So it's like, actors or comedians or whatever. So just find ways to try to, stick out and be original and make people want to listen to what you do. And find, I guess, like different avenues of discovering new fans is big, because, obviously like everyone right now wants to just be on like Spotify playlists, which could work and get you a lot of fans. But I know people who have built like, huge communities on YouTube, which is translated to everything else. And, they weren't even like popping too much on Instagram or Twitter, but they figured out how YouTube works, or they figured out these popular pages that post up and coming artists, and, got in touch with them one way or another and kind of got momentum through that. Or like I was even saying, through, I came in on Twitter originally, which like I feel isn't the norm to kind of get a lot of views and build fans. But yeah, just keep looking out for different mediums and stuff and different ways to build a fan base, because there's a lot of different avenues right now. And I think if you're creative and just consistent with it, like something will eventually catch. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just
I forgot to ask one last question, because I know that you did some social media videos with King Bach, and I wanted to talk about like how that came about, and then what do you feel like were the benefits of that for those that, I think most people know who King Bach is. He's probably one of the the bigger social media influencers and actors now. He's a director. But how did that connection come about? And how did you benefit from those videos that you worked with on them?
Yeah, I originally linked up with him just through Instagram. I think he had reached out and seen one of my videos somewhere, like a freestyle or something. But we had just stayed in touch through social media, and then like built a relationship over time. I think like over like a year and a half or whatever. I noticed he was playing PlayStation or something online, so I think we were playing like Fortnite at one point. And then he lives out in LA, so I was moving out to LA regardless. So I just reached out and was like, "Hey man, moving out here." And then we ended up just like linking up and doing some stuff. But yeah, he hit me on the fly with just kind of the idea. He's a little all over the place with just how he like moves creatively and whatnot. So he just called me and was like, "Do you want to do a skit?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I've never really like done that type of stuff before.
All right.
But we kind of just did it in like an hour, and then it did really well for his audience. And I think once it did really well, for him, it kind of clicked in his head, like, let's do more of these. So it ended up going into like a 10-part series thing, which obviously it wasn't like, it was more of like the comedy route, but it was still music. But it put me in front of 15 million people or whatever followers he has. But so that just helped get a lot of eyes, a lot of new eyes on the music that wouldn't normally see it.
I think there's a lot of things to learn from that. Number one, it's like you never know who's watching your shit. Like you never know who's a fan with social media these days, and us being able to just put our stuff out there. You never know who might become a fan of what you're doing and who you might eventually be able to, work with. So I just encourage everybody to keep getting better at what you do and keep putting your stuff out there. Like one day, Kevin Hart might become a fan of your stuff, and you might not be able to work with him, but he might just reshare it, repost it. And then you get a flood of new followers. The other thing I think is important about that story is that you said, it was like you first DM'd him like a year and a half before like you actually did something together, worked on something. Like
right.
None of this shit, sometimes things can happen overnight, but it's rare. Relationships are built over time. That trust is built over time, especially with social media these days. You never know who's a fucking weirdo. So it takes time to develop that trust, build that relationship. And then when the time came where you knew he lived in LA already, you were moving to LA, you know, and then when you did the sketch, it worked out well. So, you know, it was something that was going to be of value to him as well, even though the follower count is not the same. You don't have 15 million followers yet. You know, he was just interested in working with you because you guys had a good idea for a sketch that did well. So you ended up doing 10. So I think that's a great story. You know, it's another small win to build on, you know, another audience to get in front of. And, you know, I'm sure that some people that watch you in the sketch are now fans of your music and follow what you're doing. So I think that's dope. Cool. Well, J-Zack, man, I appreciate it. Your energy seems a little low today, man. I need you to get a Red Bull, whatever you need. Probably because we haven't been able to hoop lately. I've been hoop for like since March, man. I got to get back out there. There needs to be this Rona is really killing the year.
I know I'm in the same boat. I was in 2 different leagues late last year. I was feeling good, and then it just took it away from me.
Yeah, that's my one activity. I think everybody needs an activity where, you know, you can do that activity and not think about anything else. And basketball is that for me. You know, I don't think about shit else but hoop whenever I do get a chance to play. And having that taken away from us this year, you know, obviously there's worse things that can happen, but you know, that's big for me personally. So we'll get out there eventually. Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you, J-Zack. I'll definitely be in touch. Everybody else, I'm having another artist management roundtable discussion on this Wednesday. If you'd like to tap in with the artist management roundtable, J-Zack, the reason I put this together is because I realized, and I was mad at myself that I hadn't put it together sooner, is like artist managers, most of them are just out there winging it. Like they don't have any structure. It's kind of like artists. It's not like there's a school to be an artist, but
right.
Artist managers, there's no structure to, you know, if you want to be an artist manager, you know, unless maybe you work for a management company or maybe you just find yourself under the wing of a successful manager, you know, because a lot of managers just end up being a manager because they're the homie, you know, or some random kind of way. So now they're like, okay, what do I do? And there's all different types of artists with different types of wants and needs and different approaches to artist management. So I felt it was important to build a community so that artist managers can network and share best practices. So that's what we've done. We had a cool discussion last week. I'm gonna do it again this week. Then I'll probably do it monthly after that. But if you know somebody that wants to join it, and you're watching this, just text manager to the number up top, 844-206-7800. It was a dope discussion last week. I didn't expect to do it again this week, but the feedback was so positive that we decided to do a second one this week. So it's this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Text manager to 844-206-7800. J-Zack, thank you again, man. I'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me.
All good. All right, y'all. Till next week. Peace.